Hey everyone, before we get into today's episode with Kyle Olson, I want to take a moment to talk to you about my partners at Preborn. Let's take a moment to reflect on God's creation, you. In Psalms, we learn that God knit you together in your mother's womb. His eyes saw your unformed body. He saw who you were created to be before you became you. Preborn Ministries wants to remind you that each one of you is made in the image of God, and life is sacred. Life is eternal. You may have come to earth as an unplanned pregnancy. Whether planned or unplanned, your life has value, and every day your life is ordained by God. Please take a moment to thank God for life, and we invite you to remember the babies in their mother's wombs. Their lives count too. Last year alone, Preborn's network of clinics rescued over 67,000 babies from abortion. Your tax-deductible donation of $28 sponsors one ultrasound and doubles a baby's chance at life. How many babies can you save? Please donate your best gift today. Just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby, or go to preborn.com/Dixon. That's preborn.com/Dixon. This is sponsored by Preborn. Welcome to the Tudor Dixon Podcast. I have Kyle Olson here with me today. He is the founder of The Midwesterner. It's a news site that covers pretty much everything in the Midwest. But today we're going to be talking about nationally what's happening to the Democrats, because it seems to be a total meltdown. You've got Cory Booker celebrating, I don't know why this is a win, hit the longest speech ever on the Senate floor while everyone was sleeping. So that's apparently an accomplishment in the Democrat Party right now. But I think the reason that that is an accomplishment in the Democrat Party is because there's no one that is leading the party. There's no defined platform. They don't really know who they are right now. So I wanted to bring Kyle in today to talk about a few of these Democrats that are out being vocal and trying to put a face on the party. So Kyle, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So most recently, well, Cory Booker was I think one of the most recent bananas things to happen. And I do think that that was a desperate attempt to make it look like there's a leader, and I'm the one that's going to step into that void. This was the extension of his Spartacus moment, I believe. Do you remember when he did that?
I do. Yeah. T-Bone was very happy.
So then he goes out and he does this, and he's like, I beat the record on who can speak longer, but on nothing, about nothing. So what is happening right now?
Yeah, well, there's sort of this vacuum. And so you've got AOC and Bernie Sanders going around the country. You've got other senators and representatives going around. There's this vacuum that's going on. And I think they want, what the big picture is, they're trying to motivate and sort of generate some opposition to the Trump administration, what Elon Musk is doing with Doge. And so they're really trying to sort of foment all of this outrage and opposition. But the problem they've got is that you look at the polling, and the popularity of the Democratic Party is very low. Some are saying the lowest it's ever been. You've got Trump is actually keeping his word on the border and on cracking down on illegal immigration. And that's very popular. In fact, there was just polling in Michigan that showed a majority of Michiganders support what he's doing with regards to immigration. So his policies and the things that he's doing, the executive orders, he's actually doing what he said he was going to do. And that's why people voted for him. And so you've got the left now is trying to sort of gin up, opposition to that. And they're so desperate. They're actually burning Teslas and, and defacing them and all of that, and going after Elon Musk. And so within the context of all of that, you've got people like Cory Booker, who I think they're sort of flailing, and they want the attention for the moment. And so he got it for a few days. But I think that's what's happening right now. And I don't, as you sort of alluded to, there is no leader. Joe Biden obviously is, he's done. Nancy Pelosi is not relevant. And so they're looking for a leader, and there's this vacuum going on.
Yeah, they had Barack Obama, and then I think Barack's brand kind of got damaged when he came out for Kamala, and he didn't want to come out for Kamala. That's the interesting thing. Then he came out and he sort of shamed people like, you've got to vote for her. And they didn't like that. This is kind of the party of defiance. They don't like being told what to do. But Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer held on to power for so long. They would not let the next generation come in. So there's a generational gap between Nancy Pelosi and the people who are trying to lead, like the AOCs. That means you have this maturity level that's kind of missing, because there is just a reality that you learn things as you get older. So when you're in your 40s and your 50s, especially, you're in a different place than you are in your early 30s. And they have, I really believe this is because they were so incapable or unwilling, I guess, to give up power, that they kept all of the younger people out. Now they've got this massive gap. So you see Cory Booker, you see Gretchen Whitmer was supposed to give a speech from Washington, D.C. She had to go back to the state of Michigan because there was a state emergency because of ice storms, and there was just so much damage in the state of Michigan that she actually had to come back and cancel her speech. But I think we're all kind of curious, why is the governor of Michigan, who hasn't been in Michigan in months, just came back from the UK on another one of her taxpayer-funded trips, why was she going to be giving an official speech from Washington, D.C.? She certainly wasn't. I think you noted that her staff put on the press release that it would be in the Capitol building because they spelled Capitol wrong.
Yeah, they misspelled Capitol, and there needed to be some editing to the press release that they put out. But to me, the irony was that Michigan has the fastest growing unemployment in the country over the last year. And Gretchen Whitmer thinks it's her place to go to Washington, D.C. and offer her ideas about job creation, when obviously her record is not, doesn't match up with that. And so it's, whether it's her or Gavin Newsom is sort of posturing. There's a lot of Democrats that are posturing to try and be the leader. But as of right now, there isn't one. And
well, I think they've been kind of confused as to what they do with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is liked by both sides, and they can say that he's not, but the truth is that he won the popular vote. There are certainly people who crossed the aisle or came out that weren't going to come out and said, we like Donald Trump. And Democrats who ran alongside him actually won. So in the state of Michigan, he won Michigan. Alyssa Slotkin ran ads with both Bush and Donald Trump in them. And she ran as a moderate. She's not a moderate. She ran as a moderate. She won. You see this same playbook now coming out. Mallory McMorrow is coming. She's the Democrat that has announced for Senate in Michigan. And she is a radical. And she's out there saying that she's a moderate. This is Gavin Newsom. So he was on Bill Maher's program the other day, and he was talking about, he launched this new podcast, another guy trying to fill the vacuum. You've got Cory, you've got Whitmer, you've got Newsom now with his own podcast. But the interesting part about his podcast is the first few guests are people from the right: Charlie Kirk, Michael Savage, Steve Bannon, people that you would not expect Gavin Newsom to talk to. Is it because he wants to know what they have to say? Listen to the beginning part of this interview with Bill Maher, and we'll talk about that.
I mean, this idea that we can't even have a conversation with the other side.
You have to. They won.
Thank you. That's it. Bottom line. And by the way, or the notion we just have to continue to talk to ourselves, or we're in the same damn echo chamber. These guys are crushing us. The Democratic brand is toxic right now. We had a high water mark 2 weeks ago, and that was a CNN poll at 29% favorability. It's dropped in the NBC poll down to 27%. It's one thing to make noise, but you also have to make sense. And I think with this podcast and having the opportunity to dialogue with people I disagree with, it's an opportunity to try to find common ground and not take cheap shots. I'm not looking to put a spoke in the wheel of their, or at least a crowbar in the spokes of their wheel to trip them up, to your point. And I think it's important. Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be. This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. And Democrats need to own up to that. They've got to mature about this.
So what he's saying right there is he's smart enough, maybe maybe the word is devious enough to understand that the path that the Democrat Party is on, especially the left of the Democrat Party, is not palpable, and people aren't buying that.
But it's his brand. I mean, there's no denying that he's saying this, knowing that he has been championing this brand.
Correct. And for the last however many years, think about all of the policies we've read about that have come out of California. Crazy environmental regulations, the school regulations, which we're going to talk about in a second. So many regulations and rules and orders have come out of California that have really sort of led the cultural left and have been sort of the marker of this is how it's going to be, and this is what should be replicated in other states.
There's more coming up from my interview with Kyle Olson, but first I want to talk to you about my partners at IFCJ. Israel is still under attack. Missile fire has resumed from the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, enemies seeking Israel's destruction. Here in America, we cannot imagine living under the constant threat of terrorism and rocket attacks. This is the reality in Israel. Parents are taking their children to school and then falling on the ground to lay on top of their small children and comfort them as the sirens blare. The next attack against Israel is happening now, with little time to prepare, so we must act now. That's why I'm partnering with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews to help provide life-saving aid and security essentials. Your urgently needed gift today will help provide security essentials like bomb shelters, flak jackets, and bulletproof vests for first responders, armored vehicles, ambulances, and so much more. Join me in standing with Israel. Call to make your gift at 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-4325. Or online at supportifcj.org to give. That's one word. It's supportifcj.org. Now stay tuned. We've got more right after this. I mean, you have sons that have been taken away from their fathers because the mother is determined to transition a child under 10 years old. And this is in California. This is it. These are the courts. The governor has not stepped in to say, this is insane to take a little boy away from his father. But fathers' rights have been completely terminated because of transgender issues that people around the country do not agree with the idea of taking a child away from a parent or having permanent surgery done on a little kid. And yet this is what is starting in California. In California, this is the state that uses taxpayer money to pay for the health care of illegal criminals. These are people who have even committed crimes, but I mean, coming into the country is a crime. They are paying we, the people, and in California, if you live there, your taxpayer dollars are going toward the healthcare of illegals. But he sits there and he says, oh, I had Charlie Kirk on because we've got to be willing to find common ground, to talk to the other side. Now, very clever what he's doing. Same thing Gretchen Whitmer is doing. They don't actually tell you what they think. Even when the world came out and said, oh my gosh, he admitted that it's unfair to have boys and girls sports. He didn't say that he would stop it. He didn't 100% say that he thought it was unfair. He just gave enough to give the impression that he would be open to something, but he's not actually open to it. He's actually not stating his position. They never state their position. Republicans go out and they're, oh, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. They never state their position because their position, he tells you we are judgmental. People don't like what we want. He's openly saying he knows we don't like what he's going to do. So he's going to tell you he's not all for it. But the minute he gets into office, you don't have to question it. He's already in office. You see it. He does it.
Right. Exactly. Because these you mentioned some of the court rulings. Well, where was he denouncing that? Or where was he saying, that's not right, so we should have a bill, and I will sign a bill to make sure that never happens again. He's been silent on that, and so you're exactly right. And so the rest of the conversation deals with what's happening in California schools.
Well, first he talks a little bit about. Wait, is this conversation is about schools? Okay, so let's jump into that. Let's jump into the rest of this conversation because there's a few clips we want to play.
You say to people who say, well, this sounds all very good, but Governor, you were the poster boy for a lot of this stuff. I see today the Trump administration they talked about, I don't know if this is true, but they talked about the fact that California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what? That's the party without common sense. Now, if that's your state, how are you?
Well, I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity.
So right there,
was wrong.
Think about the word that he just used. The context of this is that that schools would have to tell their parents about what's going on in the school. And he used the word snitch.
But he's also very clever with the way he says it. He says, well, I just disagree with that. Very calmly, he says, I just disagree with that. So it can be interpreted two ways. It can be interpreted that he disagrees with the idea that schools don't tell parents. But really what he's saying is he disagrees with the light in which he is the way he is interpreting what this law says, Bill Maher. Because he's saying, no, Bill, you're saying that we're saying that teachers would get in trouble for not telling the parents. I'm just saying they don't have to tell the parents. They're not under a requirement to tell the parents. They can keep it from them. They won't get in trouble. That is twisted. And then Bill goes on to say that, because if you listen to the rest of it, Bill's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Here, let's play it.
I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids. And by the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch and a parent to me doesn't compute.
Well, I don't. But what is the job of a teacher? It's to teach. If Johnny's talking about some identity issue or some issue about liking someone of the same sex, is the teacher's job to then report that? By the way, in this law, the teacher can still do that, but they can't be fired if that's it can't be fired if that's not what they do. And that's something I think is, I just think that.
They can't be fired if they don't tell the parent. But think about this. I mean, you're talking about a behavior that is all encompassing for this child. You change your gender, you change your name, you become a completely different person when you leave the house. There is a mental health issue going on. If you have a child in your class that is cutting, if you have a child in your class that is talking about suicide, you tell the parents. You talk to the parent about it. If you have a child in the class that suddenly changes their whole identity and decides to be someone else, that's snitching?
Yes, the words he used were snitch and turn in. Turn in, like it's like you're talking about law enforcement.
Well,
but the reality
also,
is you're talking about parents.
It's something that he clearly thinks is wrong, because turning in is, the child has a secret identity. The child is hiding something from the parents. You don't want the parents to know if you're saying you're turning in the kid.
So Gavin Newsom, he's posturing as a moderate. He wants to have this appearance that he's, open-minded, and he just wants to have dialogue, and he wants to find unity and common ground and all of that. But the reality is, what this is revealing, and I think the whole reason we're talking about this, is that he doesn't think parents have a right to know what's going on in classrooms, and schools, whether it's administrators or teachers, should not be sharing information, are not obligated to share information with parents.
Stay tuned for more of my interview with Kyle Olson, but first let me tell you this awesome story about my new partners at Genucel. It's heartwarming, it's refreshing, it's true, and it's the story that so many of us can relate to. 25 years ago, a woman just like us wanted her youthful glow back, and she decided she was going to go to her pharmacy. So Phyllis walks into her neighborhood pharmacy in Colonia, New Jersey. She asked for an antioxidant cream. The pharmacist, instead of just grabbing something from behind the counter, said, I'm going to compound one for you overnight. She used the cream for 3 days, and then she goes to the dermatologist, and the doctor looked at her, was like, you look so good, you had to have had work done. Obviously, Phyllis had to brag about the pharmacy and the pharmacist who made this life-changing cream for her. And that's, believe it or not, how Genucel skincare was born. That was 25 years ago. Genucel has shipped millions of orders, yet they still have that same philosophy. Antioxidants, natural base, and the same chef in the kitchen. And now they're celebrating 25 years. Genucel is offering their best pricing since Phyllis walked into George's Pharmacy all those years ago. Right now, you can save over 70% off of Genucel's complete skincare package. This is featuring the Genucel Under Eye Bags and Puffiness Serum. I use that all the time. The Dark Spot Corrector, I use it every single day. And these products, you see immediate results. You see effects in minutes. You look 5, 10, even 15 years younger. This is guaranteed or you get your money back. So go to Genucel.com/Dixon. That's Genucel.com. It's GENUCEL.com/Dixon. Every order includes free shipping. Use Dixon at the checkout for that extra discount. Again, it's Genucel.com/Dixon. That's Genucel.com/Dixon. Now stay tuned. We'll be right back. What is next? I mean, honestly, and I ask this seriously because we've suffered through the Oxford shooting where parents could have done something ahead of time. The parents are being held accountable for that shooting. So at what point do you say, man, this kid is suffering? There's something going on with this kid. Mom and dad need to be involved to make sure that everybody else around the kid and the kid is safe. You know, there are other people that are of concern when you have a high school student or any student who is suffering with some sort of confusion in their life, whether it's depression, whether it is anxiety, whether it is gender dysphoria. The idea that the school would know that there is a potential issue with this kid and that child may need help from home, they would lie to the parents?
That's a question for Gavin Newsom, but I don't think he has a problem with that. And he rationalizes that when he uses words like snitch and turn in. Clearly, that's where he's coming from. Is he views a conversation or sharing information between parents and students or parents and schools as a negative. He gives it a negative connotation. And I think it's very revealing about what his actual belief and position is.
So there's one more thing that they get to, and this is something that is near and dear to my heart because I believe that these blue and purple states have suffered from major overregulation. The regulation that occurs, I'll tell you, I had a lot of people that I met with when I was running for office who were big supporters of political causes and very wealthy people. And if you're on the left, you would say, well, these people shouldn't have been able to make all of this money. But if you kind of peel back the layers of the onion of someone who has made a lot of money, starting their own business, and many of these people were folks who had started a business from nothing, and then they had become, in some cases, billionaires. And they would all say to me, if I did it today, I wouldn't be able to because of the regulations. The regulatory environment is so bad, I could not have started this business. So tens of thousands of jobs would never have been created. You can put aside the fact that one person made a lot of money off of it. Lots of people made a lot of money off of ideas. That's how the American dream works. You become Ford Motor Company and you employ hundreds of thousands of people across the country. But in Michigan, in California, in Illinois, in New York, no longer can you do those things because of overregulation. And Bill Maher says this about it. And clearly Gavin Newsom doesn't even get it. So let's play this.
But let's talk about what's important. My roof.
Your roof.
My roof.
Is this the solar? We're back to the solar?
After the fire.
It's always about the solar.
After the fire,
yes, Bill.
New roof, they suggested, get the stuff that's not, okay. 2 inspections I needed to have. Why? It's my roof. If it falls on my head, that's my problem.
That's it?
That's it.
That's just a statement.
No, that's my question. Why do I need 2 inspections, which I have to pay for?
Yeah.
You were here last time. We talked about regulations. You said, it's a completely new day.
Well, no, wait.
That's a quote from you. Completely new day.
Well, I mean,
You said you were working on it.
By the way, and last week you had Ezra Klein on, which was incredibly important. He wrote a book called Abundance, which really lays out a very condemning picture of liberal governance in this country and the fact that we are process-focused and not outcome-focused. And you're a demonstrable example of that as relates to what you've tried to do with your damn roof for the last 15 years.
So he doesn't answer it. He doesn't answer it. He makes a joke about it. And this is why he is so dangerous. And this is why politicians like him and Whitmer and I don't know, some of these other folks that are out there who just deflect. This is classic politicking. He asks him a question. He giggles about it. Bill Maher, he's pretty serious, though. He goes back and he's like, you promised me the last time, like, we're done with this. You're getting rid of this. He says, well, this book was just written that liberal policies are really bad.
Yeah, Bill Maher, he's talked a couple times about this, and people can sort of laugh because, he's sort of like this grouchy old man that's complaining about his roof. But there's a bigger point here, and it's that regulation, the bureaucracy, sort of the state is just running wild, and it's not containable. And here he's got the governor of California, which, as we've been talking about, is one of the worst states in the country for this. And it's a comedy show. And so Newsom knows it's a comedy show, and he can, throw out some things and get laughs and sort of diffuse the situation. But I think Bill Maher, who is, I would say he's pretty libertarian, he really taps into this issue that we have a major problem. And Gavin Newsom, he's not fazed by this, because I think the bureaucracy and the state and all of that puts him in power and keeps him in power, because they know he's not going to change anything.
Well, I think you make a great point, though. They go on a comedy show. I mean, this is how the Democrats work. Whitmer does the same thing. They go on comedy shows. They don't have to actually answer questions. Donald Trump claims that he was elected. He credits his election with podcasts. Gavin Newsom starts his own podcast, so he's the one asking the questions. He's never answering. This is the problem that they have, and that's what we have to keep reminding people. You really don't know who these people are. They tell you they're one thing. They get elected. There's something different. I mean, Alyssa Slotkin, same thing. She says she's a moderate. She gets elected. She skips the vote on making sure we don't have boys and girls sports, never answers to it. So I just encourage people to do your research on who these folks actually are. Make sure you are careful when you vote. And let's not elevate these radical leftists that are just going to make government consume every person in this entire country. Kyle Olson, thank you so much for coming on today. Kyle has the Midwesterner.news. Make sure you check it out. He's always breaking stories around the Midwest and even around the country. So we appreciate what you do, Kyle.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening to the Tudor Dixon Podcast. For this episode and others, go to TudorDixonPodcast.com, the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us next time on the Tudor Dixon Podcast. Have a blessed day.